Welcome to the Infinite Creative Podcast. My name is Fitz. This is...
I'm Sean, everybody. Welcome.
We got the motivation going today. We got a couple cool topics today, reaching from deepfakes to consent to what is your topic again? I already forgot.
Just some news of the day. It's just some updates in the technology world.
Drama of the M&Ms and branding. Plenty of topics where we can go into. Plenty of topics. Do we want to start out with the M&Ms? Because I felt like that was a weird one.
Yeah. Well, let's just jump right in, and we will start with M&M Land.
Because it's kind of a weird thing. We all know the M&Ms, and they had their characters. They support the ads. You know, it's always good to have how do you call it? A cheerleader? No, not a cheerleader. Mascot. Always mascot. Good having a mascot going for you, and just being more relatable, and not having a human face attached to the brand because it's more universal. So, what is the drama?
Yeah. Well, so I think the drama started with the green M&M, where they had the old green M&M, where she had these boots were made for walking type of boots, and
country style.
This old kind of Dolly Parton sexualized style, and then people kind of cried out, right, of she's over-sexualized, how dare you have this sexualized M&M, so they unsexualized her, put, pants on and tennis shoes on, and then there was cry out. Dude. And then, of course, there's cry out over that because it was like, yo, no, women should be celebrated, and now we're hiding woman features, and so M&M's move on all of that, and I wonder if they're going to reverse this. So they said, fine, we're not going to ever do characters ever again. We're going to stop doing characters. And ever since I was a kid, M&M have had little characters. So what do you think about this? I mean, it's weird. It's like this kind they really bent over to complaints.
So that's basically what every company does, because if they are in the spotlight and advertisers, we don't want to have M&Ms on our store shelves because of they're sexualized or not sexualized. First off, people are in advertising very PC, very clean and political correct. So I get the point why they're very careful about that, but every media attention is good attention. Us right now talking about M&Ms is probably leading to people like, oh, I didn't have M&Ms in a week or two. Let's buy some, and I don't really care about it. And is it really a big deal? Personally, no. But for some, yes. I think it's a win-win for M&Ms because they're in the news. And everybody who hears about it will be like, oh, I'm not really offended by it, so whatever. I'm going to think about M&Ms for a second and buy them.
Yeah, and it's weird. They say in their post that it's an indefinite pause at least. So I think they're going to come back because it's such. I mean, if you really think about the brand equity in there, how much are these things worth, right? You see the red and yellow M&M. I mean, it just immediately what it's about. So for them to nix something that's potentially worth millions of dollars, it's kind of crazy. It's Yeah,
but also it's like a company, so they can go back and forth how they want. It's not like set in law. You said this, so you have to do this,
Yeah, it's really funny though, just how quickly these companies kind of bend to public pressure. Though it's especially when it was only in a matter of days that they made all of these changes, and then they get these kind of outcries, and they just bend to it. Which I don't think they should. I think they should just not. They should just be like, whatever, it's candy, get over it. If you're offended, then don't watch the commercials, leave the room. Because
that would be such a good segue into my not PC topic. Because that actually has. Let's switch it up. Let's switch gears. There was big drama going on Twitch because apparently somebody streamed their live stream, and obviously this had major implications on sponsors and the public perception of said streamer and the victim, because this is now a major game changer, because we all know there's AI out there, there's deep fakes, and basically you can do nearly anything and everything with that. And somebody made porn out of a streamer, and one streamer got caught, streamer A got caught watching streamer B performing porn, and obviously that girl never did porn, and the implications for her is now they're advertisers, for example. That's why I got to that. transition now because like, yeah, that poor girl maybe is losing now like sponsors, even though she didn't do anything wrong. Somebody else did like a deep fake with her body and her face and creating porn for it. And another streamer got caught. Obviously, there's no winners. Everybody's crying. Besides the one guy who probably made it and is like, oh, I'm going to make some bank. This is free publicity for my video that I made. And I'm rolling in the dough, getting attention and views and advertising money or ad money. That is dirty ad money, and only the losers are the streamers in that point.
So just to make sure, I just want to make sure I'm clear on this. So are they like promoting this? Is this guy that made these videos, is he like selling them or promoting it, or did it just get leaked out, or?
I don't know if obviously like so let's pull up the visuals so that we have some faces attached to it. Here we go. So here are the three people in drama. Obviously, it's not Pokemon, I think at least. So this guy got caught with having his browser open, and he paid for said deepfake porns to just see them. He did not make them, but he paid to view them. His browser was open. He streamed. People saw for a split second a micro, hey, this is the browser page. And people obviously knew, like, I know that source material. I know what's up. And girl on to the left, obviously, she's very upset about that because she's not doing that type of stuff, So I don't want to say her name. So we're not really, like, throwing her in the fire. And
what's the guy's name? Let's throw him in the fire. What's his name?
I don't even know if we should do that, too, because, like...
Shame.
I don't want to shame people just for, like, their fantasies because, like... We all have fantasies, and we do in our fantasy whatever we want to do without ever needing consent. What is our big topic of this one? Because, like, this is so complicated now with AI and deepfake, Like, the guy who made the deepfakes, he did not get consent of the people involved. And should he get consent? Because he made it? It's not real? It's like an artist drawing a picture of something. Obviously, that scenario is a little bit far in between because there's more harm in it. But what's your spin on that, on the consent part?
Well, it's so interesting, right? I mean, let's take a step back to, like, you and I lived in a great time of cell phones becoming a thing and the internet becoming a thing, and the idea of nude pictures of yourself being spread around and things is for us, it seems like it's our whole life, our whole school career, but it's really quite a new thing, right? If you think about it, right? Like, prior to cell phones and the internet, the only way I could get pictures of people naked is if, like, I took literal pictures, developed the film somewhere, and then somehow copied it and spread it out to everybody or something, or made like a video, like a handheld video, and somehow spread it out. So, like, so it's weird, like, millennials...
We're talking, though, about a physical picture.
So as millennials, though, we're kind of used to this weird voyeurism that can happen, right? Like, the idea... I know, like, when I was younger, there was a whole thing of, like, when people would send you nudes, a lot of people would save those nudes, and there was a lot of talk about, like, is that cool or not? You shouldn't save the nudes. And then, you had certain things like Snapchat and things like that pop up where it automatically deletes things, because there was even this idea of, like, even if I gave consent over this image, I don't give you consent to have this image going forward, which I always thought was a really interesting concept.
Sharing, or whatever.
Yeah, and especially not sharing. And so... and even when you're younger, you're right, like, me being in the artistic world, especially in art school, I saw this, where a lot of people, they
can draw nudes.
They drew nudes, and they even drew nudes of people that we knew, even, and stuff, which is weird and awkward, but, like, yet again, is that illegal? Probably not. Even with us doing this podcast, someone could technically, there's a lot of footage. That's what's interesting about the streamer here, is that there's so much stuff to work with. So for something like an AI type of thing, the more you give it, the better it's going to do. So even for us in our podcast, man, I hope you're getting ready, man. They're going to deep fake us to the moon. But
John, you're ready for that one.
we have 24 hours of footage, people. So go for it. But it is weird though. There should be consent though, right? At a certain degree. Especially if it's put out, I think that's where it gets weird. Is if he put it out there, if he was like, "Hey, everybody, look at this," then yeah, now we're into defamation. We're into, like, the illegal stuff where you can't harass people, you can't make fun of people in public.
Obviously, this is not really legal advice what we're giving here, and the law is kind of complicated to say the least. Because, like, you're right. Because the one thing is artistic, the other thing is like defamation. The one thing is what you could do anyways in your head. You know, the only difference is like you draw it now, and then the next difference is like I use different tools than pen and paper and make it happen. So whatever you can imagine can be reality in this time and age, and I feel like on the weird side, it's like people are very sensitive now to like what people do that about with my appearance in public. You know, like let's say there's a cute girl walking around. There's many things guys are imagining that are not like being said or are okay, I guess. But like, what is okay and what is not okay, and is what you think bad, or is it just like human behavior? Because the guy got caught watching that stuff because it's what is going on in his head and his whatever.
Well, and people really are attracted to the taboo. We don't have to get into details here. We'll save that for the subscription episode, everyone. But like, even we probably have our own fantasies and our own things that we kind of have, whatever they are. Everyone does, and so on that level, it's okay to have fantasies of other people. I think that's totally normal. I mean, your whole entire life you do. You're like, oh man, that person's so beautiful, and you just you do have those kind of fantasies. Those like the mind theater type of fantasies, and yeah, it's like, so you're right. On one hand, they have the right to do this. They have the right to have these fantasies. This guy has the right to do all this stuff behind closed doors. It's just when the door opens, which in this case, it looks like it just barely opened. You just barely saw it. And I think that's when it became slightly illegal there in that moment.
I think like this is like the perfect explanation for what is happening right now in this time and era. Our fantasies, our visions becoming real life. And that is basically it. Our mind and our tools are strong enough to like, I can imagine it, I make it real. And now we're seeing what's going on in other people's head. And now we are making like decisions like, I don't approve of that. But I'm like, that's just in his head, and he shares it with people who maybe are interested in that type of stuff. Should that be punishable? Should that not be punishable? And I feel like that is what art is. Let's say Dali had that vision. I'm like imagining this. This needs to be real. And he's spending countless hours, 20, 40, 100, 200 hours working on a painting and makes it real. Now, every dude's like, hey, I have that fantasy. I'm like, it takes me 5 minutes to make like a photoshopped image, and somebody with deepfake knowledge can do anything. Yeah. I mean, it does. You're right. It does. And where it gets, what's interesting is when you look at things like Blade Runner, you look at cyberpunk, you look at kind of these future-leaning things. What's weird is that there's always this kind of sexualized culture around it. Like in Cyberpunk, it's super obvious in that game, like where you're just walking around and everything's sexualized. I mean, and I think it's a very interesting point when you think about it, because when the world is your oyster and anything goes, then sexuality itself almost becomes this almost cheap consumer product in a way, where that is actually also like very interesting, because like we all know it's like part of humanity, like we all have our needs. We're all human. We need to eat. We need to reproduce. We need to do this and we need to do that. It's normal. But in America, obviously, there's like certain fractions, religion and whatever, who are fighting against human needs, and like it's like meant for the animals, for example, or whatever. The views are very, very different, very on a spectrum, and. But it's part of it, and I feel like now we're getting to a part where we're going so deep into the human mind that we cannot avoid it. Obviously, if you don't agree with it, you don't have to watch it, but you also cannot erase other people's minds,
Yeah, well, I think there's a scarier thing here, maybe. Even scarier than someone doing a deep fake of you and all of that, is that... So with pornography, it really changed people's brains, and I think there's a problem now that people talk about, especially with young men, that there's too much of that, and it's really destroyed their libido, their desire to even go for women.
Yeah,
this can't help that, right? This definitely can't. It could maybe lead to even dangerous things, where like if you create these like let's say there's a girl that you have a crush on, and you create all of these kind of deep fake things and you're obsessing over it. Let's say all of your creative time is going to somehow this fantasy. when does the fantasy break and you do something bad in real life? Is my next question.
I feel like there is that risk, but also we're at that time where it's like you get that chatbot going with that personality, you get that physical robot tool toy going with that appearance of that. You don't need the real thing anymore. You know
so let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, and I'll keep it between us. It'll be a little bit weird that I'm using both of us as an example, but I'll keep it between us here. So if we ended this feed, let's end this podcast, and I was shared my screen, and it was a deep fake of you doing something sexual or something. What would be your first thoughts there? Are you angry? Are you scared? Are you depressed for me? I guess what's your first thing goes through your mind?
I feel like I'm like, that's funny. That's literally it. Because like I personally, I'm like, I wouldn't see it as a risk or a problem because like I know the technology, I know the problem of the internet and where we're heading towards, and it's just question of the time, you know? And it's like the first video that got stolen from me of a review, I'm like, oh, this is a compliment. Somebody did that for me, you know? I'm just aware of human nature and what that implies. You know, some people don't want to have like reality be real. You know, there's like girls who are like, my best friend would never date me. And then there's that TikTok challenge. Call your best friend, ask him to hook up. And they do it on the TikTok. And he's like, yeah, why would we never have done that? And the girls are shattered. I'm like,
so
it's like
dig a little deeper. Okay, so you think it's funny. So let's dig a little deeper, though. Would you lose trust of me, though? Would there be something there then that you're like, Sean's not telling me the truth now? Like he's doing stuff.
The sleepovers that we're having, they would be with a pillow in between.
Dang it!
No cuddles, my dude.
We're not going to hang out in the kiddie pool or the bathtub anymore and just take totally straight baths together. Dang it!
No, like I said, like that's just like I'm very open because I'm European, and obviously there's Americans who are like not as open. You know, they have not the nude beaches. They don't have like certain things. Their views are more extreme. Like violence is fine. Nature not fine if they do certain things. You know what I mean? And so
it is very weird.
Yeah, so that is the drama. Like the guy is crying that he got caught with porn. I'm like, well, you got caught with it, whatever. You know, just like it kind of sucks. It's your colleague, you know. But yeah.
I mean, obviously, and he probably has already done this. He'll need to apologize. Probably. What happens to him now? I don't think anything needs to happen to him. I mean, obviously, she should, not work with him if she doesn't feel comfortable with him anymore. This is the point where if they both worked for the same company, the company would fire him. Probably the HR manager would immediately be like, "Nope, you got to go." But they're their own people; they're their own businesses. So now you're in a place of like, sue or put up with it. So,
but let's go back to the implications. Said thing is out there now. People are consuming it. Advertisers don't have the time, resources, or the know-how to make sure this is real or not real. Neither do they care. They don't want to be associated with said brand. You know, like there's people who are posting booty pics on Instagram, and like we're not gonna work with them because like that doesn't align with our religion. You know, even though maybe said Instagrammer got paid for posting that, and whatever the excuses, the reality, if they don't match with like the image that the brand has, they're in bad luck. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, do you have to be uglier, let's say, to not get deep porn made as quickly, so that you're more PC long term to be more interesting for an advertiser? You know, what does that mean? Because the prettier you are, the more you accelerate that. You see the problem?
But, I mean, it's the old argument, though, of like, if you don't want to be raped, don't wear, like, sexy clothes. It's like, well, no, that's not their fault for looking
It's
sexy.
not their fault. I'm not saying that. I'm just, like, saying that the desire.
It's not going away, right? I mean, it's not going to go away. I mean, that's the funny thing about the internet is it's always, and technology, a lot of media technology, at least, has always followed porn. I mean, that's just how it's gone. I mean, VHS followed porn, DVD followed porn, Blu-ray followed porn. The internet has really blown up. A lot of it is porn. And so we do live in this world, though, where it's funny because you also hear on the other end, you hear about teachers getting fired because they have an OnlyFans account, or you hear about People not getting jobs because they did a sexy picture in a bikini somewhere. So it's really funny how for a place that is literally crawling with images of nudity, that it's still like taboo, that it's still not cool. So it's
I have an interesting thought about that. So I feel like we're like at the time where everybody is going to the church and nails down with a hammer, like, this is what a human needs and wants to express. This is just normal. And people are reading it and don't like it, Or the people who are having the monopoly of like, hey, I could say what is okay and what is not okay. And I want to separate everything because I don't want to associate with anything and everything. They cannot do that anymore because everybody is a human being and everything is available. Like, I can go to my employer or employee and figure out their Instagram, see whatever they don't want to share at work, So it's like, it's still part of them, and I cannot separate that. Back in the day, back in the day, you only see what they do at work, and that's it, Now you see anything and everything, like thoughts, emotions, videos, and it's like, it's not at work, but it still affects work because it's like it's part of reality now, and reality becomes very mixed, and there's no way of unmixing that. And there's the fight going on, like, we want to self-express, just be normal human beings. You should not have a right to affect me,
Yeah. No, I think it's like just the distinction of like what's private and what's not, and we're all allowed to do things in private. We just are, and so in this case, to bring it back to this guy, the streamer, part of me feels bad for him because it just sounds like
obviously that blows for everybody.
Yeah. It's not like he meant to do anything bad. It's not like he meant to do any harm. He probably had a crush on this girl. He probably just like worked with her and either got rejected by her or didn't know how to ask her out. And there probably was something very innocent behind all of this. Maybe not.
Need,
I don't.
That's basically it.
Yeah, human need, exactly. And and especially in a world where, and I'm just going to say it, that men don't feel so comfortable taking their shots anymore. We just are more frightened. We're more scared. We live in a post-Me Too movement where we have to be more careful. And and I know I've talked to a lot of my friends that they have this kind of paranoia of that. So I think that's what you see here is you see that paranoia is like, well, I can't really do that in real life. So I'm going to do it in, behind the back door. So it's interesting. So like to go back to Germany, for example, one thing that I've always loved about Germany is that they let people drink early. And that actually creates a really good thing where kids don't go and like hide in alleys and drink and do all this stuff because the parents don't care. They're like, come to the house and drink in the basement, where at least we're here. So we're in America, we still have these like, these laws that make kids go and get messed up because they go to the woods. They have to hide. They have to go away from society. So it's the same thing kind of here where it's like, if we cast men away and say, you can't do this, you can't think these things, then it's going to happen in the dark. It's going to happen, and that could actually lead to even worse things. So it's a weird thing.
For the females, though, I want to say a couple things because, like, yes, there is like there's the people who are like being over worried, and I'm like, I cannot say certain things because maybe get misunderstood, and then there's also like the other type of man who's like, they're just being a creep, and as a female they are obviously very scared about them, and there's still plenty of men out there who are being creeps, and that just kind of supports the fear of them because as a female you're usually physically weaker, what is like one of those things. So they don't really care about the one part about the population who is like too careful. They only worry about like the danger zone of the man. So it's like, it is a weird thing, and I don't know the right answers right now with all that, and I probably think like there are no right answers. I'm just like saying there is no privacy anymore. That's what I'm feeling, There's no privacy of minds, I can see what this guy is thinking and what he had for desires, or at least I can pin it down into a certain direction. And that's not anymore hidden nowadays. And I feel like we need to be more open to it instead of like punishing people for it. Because if we punish people for their desires and fantasies, we're trying to change human nature. What is a weird thing?
It's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope to say that, like, my desires are good, but your desires are bad. It's a very slippery slope. And, you know, another interesting thing that's kind of like relates to it too is that, you know, I'm sure you've had this before where someone's like, man, I don't know why I'm getting all these porn ads on Facebook or something. And you're like, well, that's the algorithm. So, and that's an interesting example of like something that happens in private is now forced out into public. And so it's like, it's the small things now that people can kind of be like, you know, when Fitze opened up his Instagram, all of the things in his search were just naked girls and girls dancing. So, and that may not be what you want people to know, but you're doing that in private and now it's out in public. So there's interesting examples of that I've seen with people where they, you know, they don't really realize that what they're doing is being recorded somehow. That somehow when you do stuff in this box that we all use, that it's not really going anywhere. It's staying somewhere.
Yeah,
and
let's
so
spin this though like the next 5 years, you know? We're having Neuralink already. There's people who can already tell, like, you're thinking about a cat. If certain devices are hooked up, you can see what you're kind of thinking about. It's not like exact one-to-one, but it's like it's roughly in the shape. What is kind of scary. But we're getting to a point where it's like, let's say you hook up the VR headset, you hook up that Neuralink, and now you're thinking your natural thinking, and it's not anymore private. It's not anymore like without judgment. And I'm like, I personally think we have to become very, 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 very open-minded to a degree that is not like comfortable to anybody to be just like able to be just like us, or we have to do the completely opposite and abolish like a lot of things that humanity makes humanity, you know, like sexual needs, for example. What would be like a castration of the mind, kind of sort of in a weird way, because like, because it's like there's so much focus on the brain onto that specific subject. It literally is the drive of some man to just make wealth and art or whatever, to just like become influential, become powerful, to attract the partner of their life or whatever, you know. And also on the female side, it's like they want to have the best of the best, you know. It's like there's certain things in nature programmed into them that they don't have a control, but it affects their thinking, and their thinking is becoming reality. What is like the new future, and we should be more acceptant, but maybe should we not? I don't know. But we'll maybe become this one where everybody's imagining the future as like the clean shaved human without sexuality. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. It's really funny. I mean, these do go back to our base desires, our reptilian brain of we just want to mate, we want to procreate, and we want to procreate with people that are really healthy and are going to produce really good offspring. So you want the hot people, the beautiful people.
Yeah.
So the women want to be wanted still, and the men want to be desired as well, and to get what they want. And those things still kind of exist. But it's funny because we're getting to this place where we almost expect perfection out of people. So anytime that the messiness gets out in public, we really try to bash people down, you know. So in this case, it's like the guy I think was in the right until the very moment that someone got anything on it, you know, once it went public, he wasn't right anymore. So it's almost this weird thing. Like you can do your weird kinks and have your taboo behind closed doors, but you just have to be very careful, because once it goes out in the public, now there's another person involved, right? You know, you may have done deep fake on this person and nobody was hurt, but the second it went out, now that person is hurt, which means now that you're maybe responsible, because now there actually is someone that's paying for it. That's not you.
And I mean, like, we're still living in a society, and society is the final judge. And that basically means if society is more left-leaning, laws are more left or right or whatever it is, you know. And that maybe changes, but it's also like it's not about the individual. So the individual is not superior to, you know, the whole crowd, you know. And that is like a weird thing, because the whole crowd, if you make it very smooth, there's certain things that are okay and in the middle, and there's certain things that are more out there that are kind of okay, but if they would focus on it, would be not okay. So it's like those things affect us all, but we see it through a lens where it's like, no, that's not fine, you know.
Yeah. There's a saying, I'm going to butcher it, that's like said a lot in the law world, like the legislative world, where you make your laws based on your worst citizen or something like that. The laws are based on the worst citizen. Right. We really don't need lanes on the road. We don't really need lights at intersections. But, you know, we have to base it off the worst drivers, and they need these things. And so we all have to. Society a lot of the time has laws that are kind of based off of people that are the bad actors. So who knows with the deep fake and stuff? It's like, yeah, you all should be able to do it, but we have to make laws maybe based on the bad actors. We have to kind of make laws based on the people that are going to abuse this stuff.
Yeah.
And are already. I mean, deep fake porn has been out for a while. I mean, a long time now. That was some of the first really AI generative stuff a lot of people really saw. It's crazy how long it's been out there. Yeah. So it's an interesting thing, though. It is. Like, we all need to be careful, but at the same time, I don't think we need to give in and not have our own fantasies either. But who knows? Maybe this is another case. We always talk about how the importance of doing something physically outside the digital world. Maybe this is a good example where instead of that guy being weird and doing this, he should have just asked her out. Even if it ended their relationship business-wise, he should have just taken it and ate it if he ate it. And it was this kind of weird secret thing that's really messed him up now.
I feel like there's maybe some differences there too, because yes, you would be maybe right, but that would maybe not discourage the interest. You know what I mean? Like, the interest is still there. Married, not married, in a relationship, not in a relationship. Being realistic, there's human needs that has no effect on the situation. It's like, oh yeah, that's interesting. I have nothing better to do. Like, why not watch it? Not thinking big about it. I feel like that is more the main issue versus oh, you should have done that in real life. Nope. Real life is one thing, and in real life you cannot do a lot of things. So I feel like some things are better in the virtual world. Because there nobody is hurt theoretically. And besides feelings and opinions and views.
Well, yeah, and I think that's the interesting thing, right? Is I think we've always thought, but not always. I think we, as growing up, we saw that there can be trauma, that people do end up, shooting up schools or killing themselves, or really terrible things can happen from the digital world. Well, we've already said some terrible stuff on this podcast, so we're already demonetized on this one. But so it's. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, yet again, there's always going to be these things. There's always going to be these uncomfortable things, and there's always going to be the devil on the shoulder and the angel on the shoulder with each of us, with any tool, right? It's like, if I had a gun, I can go use it to hunt, I can use it to protect my family, or I can, use it for harm. And so it's any tool, can be used for bad or good. We always talk about that, and I think, in this case, yeah, AI is definitely going to be used for bad. We know that. It's just going to be used for bad.
Yeah. With that being said, what are things we could do? So I came up with ideas it's kind of the dash cam of the car, imagine the scenario. You have two drivers, somebody's driving, making an accident on purpose, and you're basically, it's word against the word, or the word against the cop versus a citizen. You need proof, but video proof is not anymore the golden solution anymore. It's becoming very difficult to making sure this was not edited. This is not out of context, because you can make a person say whatever you want if you just cut words together. So it's you need to have a way where it's okay, you have metadata. You need to have that. We talked about it in the beginning. Maybe have a full recording of the day to just make sure at that day I did this and that, just to be safe.
Well, yeah, I mean, so there's always been I shouldn't say always, I don't know if always, but there's been metadata for years and years and years, which has been really great in terms of, at least placing the exact time. With geotagging, it's able to kind of create the exact place of where something's taken. I think that's going to be very important, obviously. Because we're talking about a world that we don't know is real, coming really soon, and I think we already see it, right? You've already heard of the AI artists that have been kicked off of platforms, but their art's actually real. So we're already kind of confused. Humanity's already, and we're in the first stages. That's the thing, is a lot of people don't.
And it's currently going slow. In our 1 to 2 year, AI is popping up. It's slow. The next update will be way faster, way better, way more confusing, and it's just we will make steps. If you use AI to make better AI, the work and the resource time to just build that thing is already off the chart short.
Mm-hmm. And there was something that was really interesting. So I was watching Lex Friedman on the Joe Rogan podcast earlier this week, and he brought up a really interesting thing that people at OpenAI and all these companies that are making these AI, they're actually it's already way ahead of where it is now, but they're actually purposefully not putting stuff out. They're purposefully limiting the AI because they've done tests behind closed doors with this AI, and it's already to a weird, scary place where, you know, you don't want to be able to put into Chat GPT or something like, you know, how do I do something really terrible and have it actually give you a really great answer on how to do something terrible. And so it's really interesting how while these like people that are creating this AI, they're trying to let the cat out of the box, but even they're saying like, we got to be kind of careful here. Like, you know, it's like the 3D printer when it came out and the first guy made a 3D printed gun. It was like the guy that designed 3D printers probably wasn't even thinking about guns. And he was like, oh, crap. Yeah, of course, people can make guns out of this.
Yeah, so I have no really weird theory about that. You know, back in the day, we had the internet and you could do anything with the internet. That's basically what OpenAI is right now. OpenAI gets more limited because like we don't want to have like, say AI like that religion is not real or your beliefs are fake or whatever, you know, or they don't make sense. We don't want that because people would get hurt, offended, and maybe fight the company and whatever. So, or political, whatever it is, you know, and it could be many things. So the AI is getting trained like, don't answer this question, just say this and that, you know, because it could offend people. So people don't want to have the truth, or like, let's say in the beginning, it was really popular to have Donald Trump like rap or like have Donald Trump style certain things written. You know, now it's like, oh no, we cannot do pro-political or anti-political views, whatever. You get a warning, and it's like, okay, we can't do that. Now we can't do this, but in the beginning, you had all the tools and access and those possibilities, and it becomes more and more limited. We will get to a point where the tool is so limited that it doesn't really make sense anymore to use that tool, because it's like, oh, I'm basically just supporting company's view, you know, and that's, you know, somebody else thinking for me, and I'm just like using that to maneuver the world. But if we go back to the internet, where I have the openness, and I can resource and build my own thing from scratch with all the knowledge that I will accumulate manually and painfully through whatever websites to build my own AI, I maybe get the open AI that is truly open, you know?
Yeah. I mean, and people are going to break the code. People, you know, there's going to be ways that these things are going to get leaked out. I think up until this point, it's been pretty controlled. Like, you know, where's it pulling it?
It's not controlled at all.
Where's the servers?
Code something and just like let it run on your computer.
Well, the data sets are controlled, right? Like Google has a lot of data that they don't just give to everybody. The data sets themselves are pretty well controlled and secure. However, it's a matter of time, right? It's a matter, if it hasn't already happened, where this stuff is already, the access either to the servers or the servers themselves have been maybe duplicated already, but there's going to be something where this stuff leaks out. There's no way this stays completely behind closed doors.
You're talking about the data sets that the AI is trained on, you know? And that's basically like somebody downloaded a bunch of like files onto their computer or server and trained the AI with it. You also can just make an AI program and train it with the internet, and that is basically all of the data, you know, that is available. And somebody probably already doing that right now, training in an AI on the internet with all the data available, what is like kind of not the best of humanity. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. We live in such a weird time with this AI. That's why we bring it up so often. Is it's still going. We don't know where it ends. I think any of us trying to predict that where it's going to kind of stop growing, it's futile. It's going to just keep growing and keep growing. Yeah, I also think, though, on that note, we don't really talk enough about it, because this is quite literally the biggest thing happening on Earth for humanity right now, what could literally lead to any scenario right now. Like, it's...
Yeah. Well, what scenario? I'll quickly do this. Like, I'll quickly show this. Like, so one thing that like AI has done that I've kind of discovered the last couple days is the idea of removing watermarks from images. And that,
we're going light now. I like it.
Yeah. So it's technically like a very easy thing to do. Yeah, it's Photoshop, but man, it's even Photoshop. It would have taken some time to remove some of the watermarks and things, and this is technically legal right now. It's not illegal. It's something that can be done, and so so for all of you out there, feel free to go to this. But I kind of refuse to use this because yet again, I just have this weird honor of like you need to like honor the creative and help them. But yeah, so like you get these things like this though. You get a little tool, one little tiny tool that uses AI, and it's like, well, that's not so bad, right? But then like when you get to this type of thinking, which I know you're kind of in too, I know I am in, where when there's a problem put in front of you, you're instead of being like, how do I solve this? You're already switching to how can I get AI to solve this? And that's like the weirdness that I've already felt like the evolution of my brain happening. And I'm almost trying to fight it sometimes of like, Sean, don't go straight to the shortcut. And
well, but on the one side, you kind of should go to the shortcut because, like, if you don't, somebody else will do, and they will be faster than you, and then like you're falling behind on the food chain, and the ranking is like equal like your bank account, and it's just like, oh boy.
Yeah, you almost have to not care. I'm really just trying to get to this extreme view of not caring at all anymore.
Yeah.
If the business is successful, if I have lots of money, like. Because it's like, yeah, we're almost like these rats in a maze now where like, consumerism and all this need to have money is now just like, yeah, who cares? Who cares who really, I'll burn down a village for $1 million. I don't care. There's just this type of like thinking now that's like, who cares about the photographer that took the photo?
But here's my thinking that I had with Google. Like when Google, and I realized like I cannot keep up with all the software that's coming out, like new tutorial, new 20-minute video, new this, new that. I'm like, and Google was basically like, hey, we're just highlighting what you need, and that's what they did. They optimized like for the search. Here's what you need, and they highlighted that. And I'm like, okay, the best thing I can do is now be like a really good executor. Basically, I have a problem, search, copy, paste, execute, and basically like don't even think about how the program works. Just use the program as the tutorial says, and then if you have a problem, Google and repeat, rinse, repeat. And you're just executing like Google searches and problem solving, and that is like the biggest and best skill that you could have, so you can basically do anything and everything, that's quite literally it. You just have to Google and follow the order and maybe figure out why it doesn't work if there was an update or whatever. Now the thing is becoming even faster and better, copy paste AI, and it's more about like, what is the vision? What are you going afterwards? And can you keep up that long-term goal?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is the long-term vision, and it's having a vision it's outside of the AI. I still think like, if that's the place we're going, if we're going to go to this place where all these things just become tools and shortcuts, then yeah, it's going to be just on us to have better ideas and
Beggar.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's a depressing thing. Sometimes I find myself depressed by it too, of this kind of weird way of like it's inevitable. I talk to so many artists that think that they're going to kind of stand up to this AI and that like we're going to somehow defeat it, and it's like I don't know, man. I don't see how that happens because people.
Yeah, it's kind of physically impossible, to be quite honest. It's like you will be better than a calculator. Maybe 0.1% will be better than some of the calculators. But the average human being will not be better because they will be handicapped. They will be this and they will be that. They have their drama, their depressions, feelings, whatever. You name it. It's like a big list of like things where we're not operating at a top 100%. Where the basic AI, it's like, yeah, I'm passing the bar. I'm a level 3 engineer in coding. I'm like that usually would make 183K and now you get me for free. I'm like, what? The average person cannot even code. It's like,
I don't know where it ends, man. I really don't. It makes me nervous, but because like even I use the shortcuts now. So it's so and you do have to. I mean, because I've been that person that's pushed against technology, and then you're always the loser when you do that, and. Yeah, so I don't really know, so when you talk about things like deep fakes, you talk about, things like that, it's interesting because it's all about devaluing humans. Really, I think that's the worst part of all of it. Is it devalues the human. Even by him doing that to that girl, it devalues her. It just puts out there that you're just a physical object, and I got the AI to make that physical object for me, and it did exactly what I needed it to do. And so that's how I feel like with the AI art too. Is it just devalues artists, and and people didn't mean to, and they put out their like Luminaire whatever like profile pic made by AI. They didn't want to offend the artists that they knew, but they totally did. Of you've never asked me to draw anything for you. You've never asked me to paint anything for you, but now you're an art lover because now you could get it for free and immediate. So it just devalues humans, and that's where it really is hurting people right now. Is they just don't feel very valued by it. Like, well, what about me? And I feel that too already. Is like I still have student debt. I've worked over a decade to build this. What about me? What happens to me? And the answer from a lot of people is like, get over it, get a new career. And I think it's because you saw a lot of blue-collar workers get replaced by robots and AI, and all of us white-collar people thought we were above that. It'll never happen to us, but it totally is now. It's just happening in every sector.
Video about that because like the blue collar will be the hardest to replace because it takes resources to build the robots. But it doesn't really take a lot of resources to build like code and break little problems into smaller problems. It's just like, yeah.
And critical thinking, right? Critical thinking is still one of the hallmarks of being an awesome person. But yeah, critical thinking can kind of be done by the AI as well.
Yeah, if you break it down. And as long as you break it down, everything becomes really easy. And I feel like we have to be more aware where we put our pride and joy, Like us as a human being, we should not value our work because our work is not what we are, We are the effort that we put into something. We are like, right. Like what we do with our fellow human beings, like how nice do we treat them? How good of a husband, friend are you? Whatever you do, that is basically what is the most important part. And I feel like we will go back to the basics. That was what I was like, hey, ChatGPT 3, what do I do in a world where there's no social media or any physically written paper? Or like any type of media, because it will be the value of the media is right now dwindling. It will be worthless. If you think about it, like websites, video, photos, they can be just generated by a click, in the future. So I'm like, what are the main important things I have to work on? And it's all about like communication, building community. And I'm like, okay, we're going back to the basics. Be a good human being, build your community, make those connections, and help other people. And then you will succeed, even though that means like being in the jungle, bartering with sticks, being good with trading and hope that they don't cheat and use an AI. But probably AI has better things to do than like trading some sticks for some bread.
Yeah. I mean, it's just interesting. I mean, if we were in like 10 seconds going to talk about, the evolution of information, right? You have kings and royalty that have all the information, and the peasants don't have any access to the royalty. And then you have the advent of books, but only a few people had the books. The peasants didn't have the books. So you needed a priest that had all this power so he could read the book and tell you what it says. And then the modern day printing press came out. So then people were able to all have the ideas and all have these things, but it was still ideas, and you still had to write the books, and you still had to share the ideas. And then we got to the internet, and then it was like, oh, well, now the books are free, and there's even more out there, and you can get even more information quicker. And there's these kind of search engines now that'll help hook you up with learning and help you do bite-sized learning. And now we're at AI, where it says you don't even need to learn at all. Information is now dead, and I will have the information. So it's like, do they become the new royalty? Does AI become the new royalty? Where, well, AI knows everything, and AI ain't sharing. That's what I almost feel like. So
I feel like we maybe, because like if we go from this, do we go backwards in evolution? Like basically going back like, oh, instead of living in homes, we will be living into like, in the jungle. Obviously, that's not going to happen because we're used to this living standard. But will this living standard be supported by manual machines versus like cloud machines, like what will be the technology? Will we be in a future where we have like hyperspace space travel and we have some mechanical drive forward things just because we like it? That could be really like a weird science fiction, how do you call that, retro, I forgot how you call that style of like the classes and
retro? Is that what you're saying? Like retro?
Yeah, kind of like a retro style combined with future, Like,
oh, yeah.
So where it's like we have some really high technologies made by AI, we're just using parts of it where we're not using everything of it, and AI is fine with it because like, oh yeah, you can have that, do whatever you want as long as you don't get in my way. Otherwise, I'm just like, yeah.
Well, and who knows? It may lead to some good stuff, right? Like if you ever look at like kind of future movies, most of them they're not staring at their phone most of the movie. They're just like, look at it, done. Look at it, done. That thing, done. So maybe like I think we're in this weird thing where we're all obsessed with technology. Like we're all staring at our phones. Oh, it's a new story. Oh, it's a new video. Oh, I'm leaning in all the time. And maybe it'll be good. Maybe this all becoming cheaper will be better, where we're like, I don't care. I'm not going to look at my phone. I'm not even going to open up a computer. I don't care what's on YouTube. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it will. You're right. Maybe we'll go back to the way it was. Maybe we'll read books and we'll all go outside and pick up sticks and trade them and things. But, you know, But yeah, so I don't know. I do see that, and it sucks for artists because we see the value in the visual storytelling. We see that value, and we're always defending it. We're always telling the business people, no, this is the value. And they're like, are you sure? And you're like, no, it's valuable. It'll be worth it. You'll get money. Are you sure, though? And it's just going to get harder now, where this is not going to make that conversation easier, where it's like, yeah, yet again, why do I need to pay you $2,000? I could get stock video and run it through an AI, and then I got an ad. Why do I need to pay you that money, man?
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's gonna be tough, man. I don't have the answers for people out there. I think it just goes back to like
I feel like meantime, just do your thing and execute, and don't worry, because like if you're on the tower, you worry about what is next, you will not do stuff. And you still need to pay rent. You still need to get food, and you need to get all those things, you know? So that's why I'm like, it makes a lot of sense to just do whatever you can do right now and optimize the moment. And what happens in the future happens in the future.
Yeah, what I would suggest to anyone out there is use this technology, but just like someone that's in a hospital bed too long or something, you'll atrophy if you don't use your creative skills. If you start using the shortcuts all the time, someday you may not have the shortcut and you won't be able to do the work anymore. So that's what I would tell people too, is keep working out those muscles. If you get so used to these tools and stuff, you're going to lose your muscles. You're going to atrophy.
Yeah. And I mean, like in natural disasters, like imagine like living in a small room with a VR headset and you're having that villa in VR, you know, and you're just like, okay, this is part of life. Some machine is delivering me food every once in a while. And I never really had to work out, exercise. And now something happens and you're just like, my VR headset is not working. The cloud is gone. I don't get my food. What do I gonna do? And you don't have endurance or anything or any. You know, that is like maybe the future where it's like you should have like a healthy balance, and it's kind of good to work out because it's good for your body.
Well, you bring out a really good point here, is that with AI, one of the big risks I could see happening is that where art and creativity has always been like a release for people. Like if you're sad and angry, do creativity. It's a way to release it. But with AI, it's almost a way to consume creativity. It's like a way to like where creativity 100%. Can become creativity itself could maybe become an unhealthy habit, right? Like it's a very interesting thought, but it is like
creativity, the candy for the mind.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like one of these things that, maybe you do get addicted to it in a weird way. You're just like, I like creating things with AI. And then, if that ever stops, that machine stops.
But it's like you kind of like consuming AI stuff, you know? It's like, oh, I never saw something so pretty, so cool, so thought-provoking. We are already attracted to that and like consuming that on a high level where that would be a novelty. It's basically, you know, like the drugs that you just get now. It's like, oh, who has the most creative video so I can see it? And swipe next one. I want to see the same level, just better. If you want to see the next
exactly. One. Exactly, it is. It's becoming this drug now where like, and it's so hard to impress people. It's getting so hard to impress anyone anymore because like, I've already seen a drone footage. Yeah, I've already seen that. Yeah, it's like we once we see it a couple times, we're blown away. We're like, okay, cool, moving on. Yeah, I've already seen a Blender art gallery. Yeah, I've already seen one. You know, so it's like, that's kind of the weird thing, too, is that we're just like, it feels like, you know, we're just running so quickly, right? When you look at art history, there's like time periods. There's like, you know, for these 50 years, they did humanist paintings. For this 30 years, they did this style. And it's just crazy. Like, what the heck is this time period? Like, how do you do art history for right now? Like, what is the style?
Yeah.
Like, you know.
I think like life is becoming more and more complex, and we already reached like, you know, when a person solved a problem, a simple problem, another person could copy and copy it and build the thing like that person would do. And if two people work on it, it's really well designed, and one person still maybe can understand it and figure it out. And the more people work on it, the solution and the thing built becoming so complex that we have now companies with millions of people or thousands of people working on one little thing, like this phone, for example. No person on earth could either gather the resources by themselves or just like understand by themselves, like, how does that work? There's like so many millions of little things in there and technologies and little, hey, a whole team thought about a micro thing, like, yeah. So it's like the life is becoming so complicated that regular people cannot understand it. And that's why we have more and more flat earthers, people not understanding, trying to explain the world with like certain things that are like, it's not really that easy.
Yeah. It's so maybe that is where it's moving back to this place where there's the royalty, the shaman. The shaman on the top of the pyramid knows the thing that the tribe should do, and that shaman's name is ChatGPT-4. So
I
it's
think like actually it will be not ChatGPT-4 or 3 or 5 or 7 or whatever. It will be just like some hillbilly in the community who's like, because we just want to believe him. We just want to believe that he knows the answer, and whatever he says will be the thing. And it's more relatable and to us coming from a human than from a machine, because like if you get the cold hard truth about data, you're just like, how do I read this? This doesn't apply with my needs, of like, this makes sense for a human. Not everything needs to make sense for a human to be real. You know what I mean? Like atoms don't really make sense for a human,
Yes and no. Yeah, atoms are interesting. Yeah, we won't have to get that's a whole thing. But
yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I think it's like it's going to still be about human interfacing, right? I think maybe we're maybe really wrong. In like 20 years, it may be really more about us talking to robots and robots taking this kind of bigger level. But yeah, I think you're right. There's always going to be this human interface of everything. I was going to say earlier, and this may be me being too artsy-fartsy about it, but I think there is a difference of seeing a painting made by someone and something made by art. I know in my paintings, in my geometric paintings, I make the art digitally. Takes almost no time at all, to be honest. It's like I can make that digital color palette thing in like an hour to 2 hours. And then the painting act of it takes about 80 hours total. And some people would argue, why the hell even do the painting part? Like, why would you just not print the digital stuff on a canvas? Because there's something different. There really is something different of like having this perfect digital art just printed on a canvas. And, most people are smart. They know you just ordered that out with a company. It's not like you built the canvas and did it yourself, where like I painted it and you look at it and you see like the weird mess ups and you see the weird stuff. But then in all of it, you start to feel this humanity. You feel this like weirdness of like, okay, I can see the strokes. I can see that. So there's weirdness of like the mess ups become the art in a weird way.
Yeah, so I saw that actually with a client that I had, and he showed me like that gorgeous IKEA catalog lifestyle, like just not on an IKEA level, just on a level that is so expensive that I was like, whoa. And the photos didn't look real. They looked like a Blender rendering, and then he showed me renderings that are obviously not that nice, but the pictures with a person in it, it was kind of weird, and I'm just like, this looks too fake. I don't know what I think about that. If I would see that in an advertisement, I'm like, yeah, this is pretty nice fake photos, So I'm
it's too polished. We've talked about that, right?
Too polished is kind of good and bad at the same time, because some people really like that. They want that industrial look. They want that clean cut. Some people want to be like, no, I don't want to feel at home in a place like that, and I need that roughness, character, and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And because I think the clean stuff was great when it was hard to make things clean, right? Like even back in the 90s, to do a nice pan of something was hard. You had to be like on rollerblades. You had to do weird stuff. You had to like figure it out. And
now you see the stuttering or the little tiny movements, and everybody's nitpicking, Like if I see a videographer making a manual pan, I'm like, oh, fast, a little bit faster, not too fast, and you see the inconsistency. Oh, there's a micro jitter, there's a shake, and we all see it, but it's like, yeah, he did the best for the moment, but spoiled.
Yeah, and that's what's weird too, is we're getting to this place where we think everything needs to be perfect. I think, and it's gross. I think if everything's perfect, it becomes real gross real quick. And yeah, I don't really know what's in the future. I think every time we get to this AI conversation, I don't really know what's next. But I think like being messy, coming up with your own ideas, and really, really trying to push yourself to come up with really weird, groundbreaking ideas is going to be where it's at. Because maybe you can out weird AI. Maybe.
Yeah. Once in a million or something like that, till it gets like used to it, and then it's like once in a billion.
But then you're going to have to fight people that say you should be perfect and that you should have used AI. So that's what's going to be interesting too. Is if you zig, when they zag, you're going to have to defend that. People are like, no, you should have done the pan perfectly. No, man, you could have just used AI, and you're going to have to defend like, no, but that's not my style. That's not what I was going for, and. Yeah. It's going to be tough, man. It's a tough world, especially when we have to work for other people. It's not about me as a designer, you as a videographer. It's about the client, and it's about the audience. So
yeah, it's all a transition time, and we just make the best out of it, We're all in the same boat, and it just comes back to just keep being creative, everybody. If you're listening to this and you're like, damn, I'm getting so damn depressed hearing about this AI stuff, just keep making stuff. The bummer for the morning here at Infinite Creative Podcast.
I know. But but I think it's been a good podcast, man. I think, I think talking about these things is important because even if they're weird.
About it is terrible, to be honest. Like, I was like feeling like the tools that are available, I don't even completely understand. I don't use them for fullest potential, and they're only that valuable for a short period of time,
Yeah.
That is like how I see it. And there's a lot of people who made millions in crypto, and that phase is over, or maybe comes back, but if we would have talked heavy about that 3 years ago,
Yeah, everybody out there, crypto ain't going to go down. It's going to just skyrocket.
It might.
Exactly.
It might be not.
It could again. It could again. Yeah, right?
Yeah. Oh, actually.
Don't even buy Bitcoin on the podcast again. No, Stop looking at your phone. Stop looking at your phone. You're on a podcast.
I'm curious. Like, the Bitcoin is...
For everyone out there, if you have a podcast, don't look at the phone during the podcast.
23. I bought it at 19 or 20-ish on the podcast.
All right.
But it's not financial advice. Don't do what I do.
Yeah, don't do that anyway. I would say
that is solid advice what he got there. Don't do that.
Just don't do that. But yeah. So yeah, and yeah. Anything else you want to talk about? Is there anything else on your mind, or?
No. Maybe we talk afterwards a little bit to see what's going on in our lives, and if you want to be part of the community, hit a like, let a question down below. It's always nice hearing about our fellow creatives, and have a good one. Peace.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. See ya.